What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Sugar from Sugar Earth Gaming. We're back here on the gaming channel, finally, doing content about the Silent Hill 2 remake because we have a new interview from somebody at Bloober Team with some confusing statements, and I'm not sure what exactly to make of them, but we also get the backstory and how Bloober Team got involved with Silent Hill 2 remake in the first place. So it's an interesting interview, definitely worth the read, and we're going to be getting into it. But if you're into survival horror stuff and other video games, narrative-based, definitely keep it locked on Shook Earth Gaming. We're going to be back to making new videos for this channel more often. And of course, I got the main channel, Shook Earth Media, where we talk about movies and TV. So, yeah. But anyways, jumping into this article, I am a fan who, I've enjoyed Bloober Team's games in the past, but they've been smaller scale, relatively focused, not gameplay heavy narrative experiences that are more about the atmosphere and the art. So I've seen the influence from Silent Hill series in Bloober Team's work. I know that they can craft an interesting story. I know that they seem to have a reverence for this game too, that they seem to understand at a core level what the game is about. Well, we'll find out if they really do when the remake comes out. But that's been my impression. The medium is definitely a very Silent Hill-like game, but having the same composer even, has some very similar concepts aesthetically and everything like that. So I think that they are at the very least capable of it. They need to expand their company. This is the biggest game they've ever made. They have to have game mechanics. They got to have combat. And now that we're doing over-the-shoulder camera, we have to have gunplay that feels good. It's got to compete with, the Resident Evil 2 games. I'm not saying I want it to be like that, but it has to be responsive in that way. It has to feel like a modern game. So it's going to take a bit more than just, a narrative kind of walking sim experience, which I love those type of games, but we need more when it comes to Silent Hill 2, because we need the puzzles, we need the level design, we need all the aesthetics, we need the story. Everything's got to be faithful. So there's some interesting statements here towards the end. I'm not sure what to make of. We'll see. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. But this person is a chief marketing officer at Bloober Team in Poland. So that's where they produce these games. The first part of the interview is talking about Layers of Fears, which is a weird plural sequel thing. I don't know what's going on. It sounds like it's tying the two games together in a shared universe type of thing. I don't know if it's weird, ambiguous if it's a sequel or like kind of a remake. It's kind of weird. I don't know what that means, but skipping past that because I don't really care about it. Switching gears to Silent Hill 2, as the interviewer says, was Silent Hill 2 chosen by the team, or was the team approached to do Silent Hill 2? So this is where they tell the story, the behind the scenes of the fact that Konami actually invited them to participate in the Tokyo Game Show, and then after that, they approached them and asked them to prepare a concept for the original game's second installment in exchange for the opportunity. So they definitely had a bunch of other developers stacked up. It wasn't like just Bloober Team. They came to Bloober Team. You're getting the full reins to the... No, they had to put a pitch together. This is pretty typical. This is happening behind the scenes in entertainment all the time. Right now, it happened with Stargate recently over at Amazon. A bunch of different studios pitching to them ideas how they're going to move forward. So of course Capcom doesn't develop anything really in-house for the most part. I think they have a soccer game and like something else, but they've scaled down their game development at the very least. So of course it has to be another company doing it. So they weren't the only contenders, and but their pitch was the best one. And we've seen the trailer already. It looks faithful. The visuals of it, there's some direct shot-for-shot remake type of things, some cutscenes that we get to see in the finer details of the faces and stuff. So yeah, anyways, they apparently Capcom recognized their commitment and their passion, and they were really shocked. They put a lot of fancy words in here. They wanted to sound good. Of course, it's the chief marketing officer. So how long has this remake been in development? And they won't answer that question for some reason. I don't know why is that a hard question to answer? Why can't you just say? I don't know. Maybe it's hard. Maybe she doesn't know, or maybe it's hard to really say when it started, because it's been in the works for a long time, and they do a little bit of work at the beginning, and it's hard to say sometimes. But anyways, how has the team gone about recreating the horror present in Silent Hill 2? Part of the horror, as we know, was in part due to the limitations of the hardware at the time. So I think that the way that that question is phrased, this is where we get into some of the confusing statements, and we'll read it, so we'll get back to that. But the way the question is phrased, I think, is important to point out, because they are saying they pitch the idea. They don't go into detail about it, but how Silent Hill 2, the scares were in part due to the limitations of the hardware at the time. What they're referring to when they say that is that a lot of design choices in the original Silent Hill series were made to work better on the original PlayStation 1 and later 2 console. There were severe hardware limitations that they were working with, so they could not show too far into the distance in some of the exteriors. So this is why the game takes place mostly inside. And when you do finally go outside, of course, there's fog everywhere and you can't see anything. That is specifically because of the hardware limitations. However, it creates such an immersive atmosphere. You don't even notice that it doesn't feel like it's compensating for anything, because it becomes like a defining characteristic. Nowadays, we're 21 years later, they can show as far as they want. So now it's down to style, and actually now adding fog is probably going to limit the hardware a lot, especially if they do ray tracing or something complicated like that, like tracing the light through the air. So we're going to have a lot more in the way of effects, lighting effects, lighting in the distance. We're going to see silhouettes, further away. And I think it's going to look a lot better. And the other part of that is part of the fixed camera angle. Silent Hill is a bit different than Resident Evil, because Silent Hill 2 and the other games actually did have a full 3D environment. Like you could, to a certain degree, you can shift the camera to be behind you. You don't get full control of the camera, but you can kind of rotate it around. But a lot of times when they do the fixed camera angles, they are doing that so that they don't have to render everything out in the room at all times, so they can make it look as good as possible. Resident Evil, it's really just a JPEG image behind everything. I don't know if it's a JPEG exactly, but it's just a still picture that they made, like pretty much like a matte painting, and they put the sprites in front of it, or the 3D animated models in front of it. So that's, of course, due to hardware limitations as well. And a lot of the scares in the game are set up because of the fixed camera angles. There's a moment on the rooftop of the apartment building where Pyramid Head scares you. It's one of the biggest jump scares in the whole game, which there aren't that many, because it's Silent Hill. It's more about the suspense and build up than it is the actual jump scare stuff. But the best one in the game is because the camera's fixed. You can't see him coming. So they have to change things. So that's why I think it's important to mention the phrasing here, mentioning the hardware limitations. Okay, now let's get into the response. They are focusing on bringing the distinct visceral atmosphere back in the modernized Silent Hill 2. Of course, the atmosphere is king. This is important. But now that the hardware limitations, again, it's an opportunity, really. They don't have to worry about that as much. Longtime fans shouldn't worry about us missing the point while we're livening up the title. So they're trying to reassure us that we're real fans, we know the story, and we care about it. We're not trying to change things for the sake of changing them. It's encouraging to me. So we faithfully stick to the traditional story canon while remaking the gameplay and updating the graphics from the ground up. Of course, I don't think that they can change much about the core story. They can change some of the dialogue, and they can change, maybe some of the order of events, but really, they can't change, who James Sunderland is without making it a fundamentally different experience. So hopefully they're smart enough, and Konami knows that they want to preserve Silent Hill 2. Now, Konami's just out here for money, so I don't know that they really care. So hopefully these guys care. These are the reasons why Konami entrusted us with the remake in the first place, saying that they're fans, they're passionate, they care. A big visible change is the adoption of the over-the-shoulder camera. We talked about that, which altered the perspective of a few iconic set pieces. I think the scare on the rooftop is one of those things that they're mentioning here. And a lot of the set pieces in the game, again, are designed around the fact that the camera is under the game's control and not yours. Now that's changing, so we have to reorganize the scares. It's really, it changes pretty much every scare in the game. They have to adjust it for the new camera angles. So, it's not a small matter. But also meant an overhaul to the combat system, as we would hope. Again, the combat is not the best part of Silent Hill 2, and actually they get to really improve it and make it a much more engaging action game if they wanted. I actually do hope that they go kind of that route. I would like to see, a more responsive block system, maybe a dodge. Who knows what they'll come up with, but I would like to see something like that. The latest technological advancements do wonder when it comes to making the visuals pop, that's for sure. I mean, the game looks great in the trailer and in stills. As you can see, we're not straying away from the original concept of making this cult classic. We just have some ideas on how to make the peculiar scare factors more appealing to the contemporary audience. So here's part of that. I mean, doesn't it sounds weirdly phrased, right? Part of it is like, okay, she's Polish, maybe English is second language. Again, it's, very good. I'm not saying she's bad at speaking English. I'm just saying maybe it's not the exact word choice like we would use. So she says here at the end, more appealing to the contemporary audience. And now whenever I hear the phrase modern audience or contemporary audience, it immediately, to me, goes back to people saying like, oh, they did problematic things with the original and we gotta fix it in the new one because we're so much better and more enlightened now. And I hate all that stuff like a lot, not recognizing that there's, you don't want to mess with greatness, okay? You're not better than it just because you have some different ideas now, you know what I mean? So I don't see anything in Silent Hill 2 that needs fixing. So, but again, keep in mind, this is somebody from Poland. Maybe they don't know about those uses of that word. Maybe they just mean the camera angle change. More modern audience is used to having a camera that it responds like this in our third-person action games. And that's what they mean by contemporary audience, how to make it. And again, peculiar scare factors. Again, it's odd word choice, right? So, I mean, of course, it is strange and peculiar. But they want to make the scare factors more appealing to the contemporary audience. Again, I think it's talking about the camera change and the new combat. So, but they say they're not straying away from the original concept. So the only thing I could change think they could change to like how I was alluding to the modern audience or new sensibilities would be to change what you find out at the end about what James did in the past, but you change that, the whole game's done. So it's all different at that point. So that's like the fundamental thing at the center. You pull that out, the whole thing collapses. So I don't think they're going to do that, especially not after saying, we're faithful, but we've been lied to before. But I don't know, I have some faith in it, I think. So I think I feel pretty positive about it. I don't think that we're going to get, a disaster that is just putting their activist opinions in the thing. I don't think we're getting that, but let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. That's pretty much it. So he does mention a specific scene. He says, have there been any story or dynamic scene changes that had to happen, like the infamous Pyramid Head in the kitchen scene? Now, this is, for those who don't know what you're talking about, there's a scene where basically Pyramid Head is like kind of forcing himself, I don't want to say the right one of the monsters in the game. So and I think that's important for the symbolism of what the Pyramid Head means and how Pyramid Head relates to James. I don't want to spoil anything, but it is important for the story. So if they take that scene out, it's kind of dumb. But Anna here doesn't answer the question. She says we're not going to get into the finer details. I would have hoped that she would say, of course, we're not changing that scene. But, again, maybe you don't want to go down this laundry list of confirming and denying everything because, one, it's not done yet. Two, you want to leave some element of surprise. So, I don't know. Was the team given free reign to put their own spin on things? And she says, as aforementioned, we take a very safe approach to any changes. Again, this is them saying they're not going to change it. So, a very safe approach would not mean changing the ending, taking out Pyramid Head scene, and stuff like that. I mean, I think that stuff is definitely key in there. We're not going to just pretend it didn't happen. At least I hope not. So we'll find out. So that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Are you scared? that Bloober Team is going to sanitize Silent Hill 2. I certainly hope not. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.